Hello friends, welcome back. In previous video part 4 we discussed few interview questions and answers. Now let us continue with this remaining questions now. So the last question that we discussed about how to schedule the batches without using any commercial tool. So we can use a third party APIs like a Quad API, or we can use a Spring scheduling mechanism also to schedule the jobs. So in the Spring we have two annotations to schedule the jobs, that is enable scheduling and at the rate scheduled annotation. For the scheduled annotation we can write the cron expressions, right, what time the job has to start. Simple example, public void send email. I want to send, I want to call, I want to execute this method for every 1 second. Then you can specify at the rate schedule fixed delay is equal to the 1000. This 1000 represents a milliseconds, right? So you can write the logic that you want to execute at frequent intervals of time, daily or weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, based on the client requirement. That job scheduling we can configure by using Spring scheduled annotation, right? Next, question number 57. What is the difference between authentication and authorization? So this is also very interesting question for experienced persons, and we should know what is the difference between these two. First, what is authentication? Authentication is used for credential checking. When a user is trying to log in into the application, we need to validate whether he is a authorized user, or whether he is a whether the credentials are valid or not in order to access our system or not. That is called authentication. Authenticating the credentials of the user to allow him to access our project. Next, authorization. Once the user is logged into the system, we don't allow him to access each and everything available in the project. Generally our applications are role based applications, so based on his role we will check whether he can access this particular functionality or not. That is called authorization. Authentication is used for credentials checking. We will use this when user is trying to log in into application. Authorization will perform to check whether user can access this specific functionality in the project or not. Generally the role based applications will perform these authorizations, right? Next, question number 58. Where you have used REST API in your project? And nowadays everything is REST, right? So you should be able to explain a scenario where exactly you are using the REST APIs. Are you developing a REST controllers, or you are developing the REST APIs, that means REST clients or REST resources in your project. Now everything is microservices. Every microservice is a REST API. I hope you know what is microservice already, right? Now, so you can, let me tell you one simple scenario where exactly we used that REST API in our project. You can say like this: as part of our application, we are hitting a rules engine to determine eligibility of a person when he applied for a plan. The rules APIs are running in the another server which is exposed as a REST API. So when the person is trying to determine the eligibility, our application will interact with the REST API to execute those business rules. That REST API will decide whether that person plan is approved or denied. Here, rules API developed by some company, and that is the REST controllers are there. Here we are accessing the REST controller, so we are playing the REST client role here. Right? So you should be able to explain a scenario where exactly you use that REST API. Next, very interesting question and very important also. That is question number 59. How to secure REST APIs? So as we discussed in the REST APIs, right, two parties will be involved. One is class a client and another one is a resource. Clients are going to access the resources. Now the question, can everybody access the REST API? No. So we are going to do business with only some people. Only our partners should be able to access our APIs. Then how to secure our REST API? There are several mechanisms to secure the REST APIs. One is by using basic authentication. Basic, that means very basic authentication, that is not recommended for the production environments. Now, recommended approaches are SSL certificate based authentications or OAuth based authentication. Nowadays, people are using OAuth to secure the REST APIs. It is a token based mechanism. And you can say that there are several ways are available in our project. We are using SSL certification, or we are using OAuth based mechanism to secure our REST APIs. So you should know the procedure also, how to work with that certificate and how to work with that OAuth when if we ask to explain those details internally. So we should be careful about that, because security is one of the most important concept in the project development, right? Yes. Next one, question number 60. What is Swagger? So generally when we are working with SOAP web services, two parties will be there. One is a consumer and provider. Provider details will be given to the consumer in the form of digital document, that is from the SOAP web services. When it comes to the REST, digital files will not be available. So how to describe the REST API to the clients? That's where this is Swagger comes into picture. So Swagger is a third party library which is used to generate documentation for the REST APIs. How to work with this Swagger and what are the annotations available in the Swagger? So this is the question number 61. Tell me few annotations available in Swagger, like at the rate API, at the rate API operation, API model, and at the rate response, like that several annotations that we are there in the Swagger, we can explain him. And we should tell what is the purpose of these annotations and how you use in your current project. So guys, always remember that whenever you are giving an answer to your question, definitions are not sufficient. You should tell the reason and you should tell the situation, you should tell the use case where you implemented in the project. Then only he will be satisfied with your answers. All right. Next one. Question number 62. What is the bug reporting tool that you are using in your project? Nowadays, people are using Jira as a bug reporting tool in the project. There are several other tools also like Bugzilla and Jira also we can use as a bug reporting tool. First, what is this bug reporting? Why this bug reporting? So as I discussed, several environments application will be tested like SIT and UAT, right? When those testers identified a defect, they are not going to fix it. They need to report that bug to a developer. So to report that bug, they will use a bug reporting tool, that is a Jira and or Bugzilla, right? Next, question number 63. How task will be assigned to you? This is also very confusing question for the people who don't have experience. How they will assign the task to us once you join in the company, right? So task assignment is happening through several channels. So some companies, some projects which are following the agile methodology, they will use a Jira tool to create the stories and to assign the tasks. In some companies, tasks will be assigned in a meeting, and in some companies tasks they will send in your emails. Like that several ways the task can be assigned, that depends on your team lead and the project manager and the software methodology that you are following in your project. So you can say that my project is following a agile methodology, so they are creating the stories for the sprint and they are assigning the stories by using Jira tool, right? Next, question number 64. How many database tables are there in your project? This is also again a tricky question just to check your confidence levels. So you can tell some random number because that person will not come to your office to count the number of tables what you told is correct or not. So just like if it is a enterprise application, you can say that 2000 3000 tables are there in my project. Just tell you one random number and be confident about that. And some people will ask a question, how many classes you have created in your project? This is also a tricky question. Generally we don't count how many classes that we are going to create in the project, right? So just tell that I created so many classes but I never counted them. So you know to tell the random number. Tables means random number, fixed number will be there, but classes, who will count those, right? So you can tell some random number, or you can say that I created many classes in my first experience but I never counted them, like thousands or thousands of classes I created but I don't know the exact count. Like that you can tell that one, right? Next, uh, question number 65. Application is taking a lot of time to respond in production. How you will identify the root cause? So this is also a important question for experienced person. When the applications are deployed in the production, sometimes the slowness will be there. That slowness may not be only from the code standpoint. Here we need to identify several reasons, like what is the network speed and how much time is taking by code, how much time our DB is taking to execute that queries, and if we need to check the thread dumps and heap dumps, we need to use the Java profilers to check the dumps of the threads and to check the dumps of the heap, right? And by using all these informations, then I can identify where exactly it is taking time to respond. So like that you can explain. I will try to identify, I will try to troubleshoot the problem in the several aspects like network speed, code execution time, DB execution time, and I will monitor the heap dumps and heap dumps in the JVM, and I will perform thread dumps by using profilers to understand the root cause. Like that you should explain that. So fine. Next one, question number 66. How many environments are there in your application? I think this is a duplicate. Already we covered, right? Dev environment, SIT, UAT, pilot, and production. Like that, several environments will be there for our application. Now, next question is interesting. Question number 67. How build is deploying to higher environments in your project? right? Generally, as a developer, we'll do the coding in the local and we'll commit the code to repository. Then how that code will be moved to integration environments and SIT, UAT and productions, right? There should be some team who is going to deploy that code to higher environment, right? You can say that we have a DevOps team to perform the deployments in the higher environment. So they are using some automation tools to achieve CI and CD, that is continuous integration and continuous deployment. Jenkins tool we are using to perform auto deployments in our project. So again guys, if you don't know what Jenkins and how to work with the Jenkins, here I created almost 9 videos to understand what is a CI and CD, what is a Jenkins, how can we work with the Jenkins, what is a pipeline, how to enable email notifications in the Jenkins. All those things are discussed in my Jenkins video, which is there in my channel, that is Ashok IT School. Please watch those videos, then you will get the complete clarity how the deployments are happening for the higher environments in the project, right? Have you ever used Jenkins? Nowadays almost all the companies are using CI and achieving CI and CD by using Jenkins, so you should also tell that yes, I know how to use the Jenkins. I'm hoping that you will watch those videos, then you can confidently talk about the Jenkins in the interview. Yes, in my project we are using Jenkins for auto deployments. Next question, what is pipeline in Jenkins? Again guys, just two lines of statement will not give you a clarity here, so please watch that Jenkins video. There I spend some time to understand the pipeline and to create how to create the pipeline. For overview, pipeline is a group of events that are interconnected with each other in a sequence. Suppose I want to do the deployment in the dev, then QA, then UAT. So here I am going to create a pipeline with these 3 jobs. If the job deployment is completed successfully in the dev, then only deploy that in the QA. If the QA deployment is successful, then only deploy that in the UAT. So these 3 jobs are interconnected. That is called pipeline in the Jenkins, right? Who will create a pipeline in your project? So generally in the companies, DevOps teams will be available. They are responsible for this build management, so they are going to create a pipeline. So whenever we need a pipeline as a developer, we are going to send a request to the DevOps team with our manager permission. Then those people are going to create the pipeline. To create that pipeline, we need to give the information like what is the repository we are using and what is the repository URL and all those branch name and all those things. Then they are going to create a pipeline for our requirement, right? So do you know how to enable email notifications in the Jenkins? Yes, because in the Jenkins video you can see how to enable the email notifications. Fine. Next, which tool you are using to review your source code? Code review is very important thing in the project development. So whenever we do some coding, we may, as a human being, we will write some mistakes. We'll forget to follow the naming conventions, or we'll forget to add the comments, or we will keep unwanted methods in the code, or we will use unwanted imports in the class, and we don't do the proper exception handling, or we don't do the proper null checks. All these things can be identified in the code review. So in order to review that code, there are several open source tools like programmer mistake detector and SonarQube. So you tell one name of the tool, one tool name like PMD or SonarQube, which is used to perform code review. So generally in the companies, code review will happen in 2 ways. One is a peer review, another one is a tool review. Peer review means my code will be reviewed by my colleague, his code will be reviewed by some other person, that manually we will do the code review, that is called peer review. And we will automate that code review process by using SonarQube. This is SonarQube plugin we can configure in the Jenkins. Whenever the deployment is happening in the environment, Jenkins will do that code review. If the quality gateway is passed as part of the code review, then only deployment will continue. Otherwise, it is going to stop the deployment. So you can say one tool name that is using for code review. You must say that yes, I have done the code review by using this tool, because that is part of our development. That is one of the role of the developer. Alright guys, so we covered up to 72 questions. The remaining questions will be covered in the next part, that is part 6. Thank you for watching.